Hey everyone, SweetJohnnyCage here, back with another guide for The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening on Switch. This time I'm going to show you how to access the Color Dungeon and walk you through it. So this part here is optional. If you want, you could visit the library and bonk a book off the bookshelf, and this will give you the code of sorts to enter the Color Dungeon. So take a picture of this and then proceed over to the graveyard, and I'll show you how to get there from the village as well. But this code is basically telling you the directions in which you need to move certain gravestones. What's kind of interesting is that in the original Game Boy version, or rather Game Boy Color version, the Link's Awakening DX, the text was arranged in a way that gave you an additional hint as to which stones you should be moving, because there are multiple plots in the graveyard for you to be able to move stones. And in the original Link's Awakening DX, those numbers were placed in the text box in a certain way that basically told you, like, this is the pattern of gravestones that you're looking for. But in any event, this dungeon is accessible once you have the power bracelet. Otherwise, you can't move the gravestones, and you won't be able to pick up certain enemies in here. So we're going to go ahead and enter the code by moving gravestones in a certain direction. So we're going to move this bottom right one down, and then we're going to move the next one left. And then I'm going to try to take care of some of these ghosts really quick. They can deal a lot of damage pretty quick, and they can sort of gang up on you. But this third one, we're going to push up. And now I'm going to try to deal with the ghosts. Oddly enough, I don't know if this was the case in the original, but when one of these ghosts dies, they all die. I don't know if that was the case, but I don't really recognize that as something that was in the original. But we're going to push the fourth one to the right, and then the final one up. And then we're just going to bat this ghost away, and then we can go into the Color Dungeon. Entering this dungeon, speaking to these two NPCs, they'll tell you this is the Color Dungeon, they're the Color Guard, you're going to need magic powder, and they will sell you some if you need some. Interestingly enough, in the original, the way that Nintendo would make it so you had to play on a Game Boy Color was that their outfits were random. So it was either red and blue or blue and red, and they would ask you to identify which was blue, which was red. So that was interesting, but they took it out in this. So the puzzle here, you want to make all of the orbs in this room be the same color, and this is going to be a repeating puzzle. The first two are pretty straightforward. The third one, I will print a solution on the screen that shows you what to do. This bombable wall here, there's several blue rupees in here, sorry. And unfortunately, unlike the Link's Awakening DX version, this room is not farmable. So while you can come and go out of the Color Dungeon as you please, returning to this room does not refill it. I'm not 100% sure what happens if you die and come back. I don't really know, but I have exited the dungeon several times, and that room never becomes repeatable. So these enemies here, they drop bombs from the sky, and the way these floors work is that they have the tiles bounce you, and they change colors. So if it's green, you have 2 more bounces. If it's yellow, you have 1 more bounce. If it's red, when you bounce on it, it turns into a pit. So be very careful. You'll see a couple more of those rooms. So these enemies, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you want to hit them with your sword so they clam up, and then you want to throw them in the corresponding holes that match with their color. So doing that the first time drops a chest. So we're going to grab that. Then we're also going to go into the room to our south, or to the bottom of the screen. So that's a stone beak. Again, in like the rest of my walkthroughs, I'm giving you the hints, so I'm not going to talk to the owl statues. But these guys, I wonder if they were meant to be something more, because they were the same thing in Link's Awakening DX. They just die in one hit, and they start on a floor tile. I don't really get it. I don't know if there is supposed to be something special about them. I've never been able to tell. But yeah, that's the interesting thing. So these guys, they don't have wings, so they also bounce on the tiles, and you got to be careful about them because they can break away the floor. Luckily, you can just jump the gap on the north section here, the 2 section right here. You can jump that with a Roc's Feather if they break it open for you. Like if they just turn it all into pits, you can break it open no problem. So instead of going through that north door, instead what we're going to do is we're going to go through this north door. We're going to do a little bit of backtracking and go through a different path. So you do not have to kill any of the enemies in this room. I wasn't sure because sometimes I can't hear the compass tone, although as I'm saying this, I realize in this version of the game, the compass icon shows up on screen if there's a key in the room, but I wasn't sure if there was like a rupee chest or something in this room as well, because the compass does not make a tone in this version unless there's a key, regardless if there's a rupee chest or anything hidden in the room. But of course, there is not. So this is another one of these switch puzzles. We're gonna hit the yellow one and then hit the red one twice until they all turn blue, and then that's gonna drop a key. So that one can be a little bit confusing. If you feel like you've ever really botched a solution to those, just exit the dungeon and come back. You do not need to push the gravestones again. They stay pushed, unlike Link's Awakening DX, so you can literally just leave and walk right back in, and those puzzles will reset. So here's our first mini-boss of the dungeon. There are a couple. This is a slime, and the trick with him is you have to sprinkle him with magic powder, and then you can slash him. Okay, so we're just gonna keep doing that. If you don't sprinkle him in time, he will use an electric shock ability, which I think is actually pretty interesting. It can go in two different directions. You're gonna see it here. This one goes diagonally. They correspond to where his little slime feet are. So yeah, let's keep that in mind. And then he's going to do it one more time, but it's going to go in the 4 cardinal directions because that's where his feet were facing that time. So yeah, he's only going to get to do that twice, and then he's going to fall. So on normal, I think he'll drop a fairy. Maybe he won't, but on hero mode, he certainly does not. So we're just going to keep taking our time. We're going to push these blocks, and then this chest contains the nightmare key. So that's going to allow us to fight the boss of this dungeon. But we still have one more mini-boss to get to before then. So now that we've gotten the nightmare key, we can go ahead and proceed to the door we skipped before. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so now that we have this door open, we can fight the next mini-boss. This is a stone Hinox, and he will stomp on the floor and drop boulders. The trick is just jump when the boulders are falling, or jump when he's jumping, so he doesn't stick you to the ground. And I just prefer to use bombs because it keeps him on the other side of the screen. It makes it so he's never really going to come too close to me. So it takes like 5 or 6 bombs, but again, just jump when he jumps. This way you don't get stunned. And then just keep tossing bombs to his side of the screen, and eventually he'll fall. I believe you can still use your sword. It's been a while since I fought this guy. It was a couple weeks ago, and I can't really remember because I beat him kind of quick because I used the same method. I think actually when I did this in DX version, I was using bomb arrows, so that's kind of interesting. If you are paralyzed on the floor, if you're stunned, the boulders will just roll over you. I found that pretty interesting. I was expecting to take a lot of damage, but they did nothing. When you're stunned on the floor, you're stunned. Nothing can happen to you. Alright, so coming into this next room, the obvious solution may be to kill all the enemies, but there's actually a switch hidden under the pot in this northwest corner here. So we're going to pick that up, and then we're going to move to the north section. You'll see a little transition there. I made a mistake in my pathing originally, so I'm just cleaning up the video here. But you want to head through that north exit, and then we're going to go west one screen. Let that drop down. And inside of this chest is the dungeon map. You really don't need it at this point, because chances are if you've gotten this far, you're basically done with the dungeon. But we have one more room here with these enemies that you gotta collapse and then throw into the holes that correspond with their color. This time there's a yellow one, but it acts the same exact way. This dungeon is a bit of a novelty. Keep that in mind in case you're wondering, like, this dungeon design is terrible. It was the first, like, Game Boy Color specific thing that they had really ever done in the Zelda series, well before Oracle Seasons and Ages. And so when they remastered Link's Awakening, they just put in a dungeon called the Color Dungeon that does not contain a heart container, it doesn't contain an instrument of the sirens. Instead, their reward is a tunic. So, yeah, which we'll get to. So for this room, I'm going to freeze this real quick, and this is the solution. This is the order you want to hit these orbs in, and you just want to hit them once each time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you mess up this room and it starts getting crazy, exit the dungeon and come back. And it will reset, and then just use that solution. Okay, so this final room has 4 slimes, and then we're going to use our final key to open this final door. And then we are going to hit the crystal switch, flip the tiles, and then enter the boss room. So the boss for this dungeon is actually a lot easier in this version than I remembered in DX. He lasts a lot longer in certain colors, and I'll do my best to explain how he works. So you need to repeatedly hit him. If this is the hard hit beetle, you have to keep hitting him. I know that sounds obvious, but if you pause between hitting him, he will revert and he will heal. So you need to keep hitting him until his shell turns red, and then you want to hit him a couple more times. So once it's red, or dark orange, Stalfos and skeletons will fall from the screen, and then he will use them as a shield, and then you can jump over them. But once it's dark red and like almost fully cracked, you just gotta rush him and try to kill him. Sometimes you can get him in a good pattern where he just sticks in a corner, but with all those skeletons falling from the ceiling, he creates a pretty good shield for himself, so just keep that in mind. So now that we've finished the dungeon, we're going to talk to the Fairy Queen, and she's going to give us a choice between 2 color powers. One is red, one is blue. If you pick up the red mail, you basically receive a permanent piece of power buff, and you do double damage. If you pick the blue tunic, you take half damage, so it's basically like a permanent Guardian Acorn. I'm not 100% sure if this effect stacks with Guardian Acorns and Pieces of Power. I've never actually tested it. It could, I don't know. But if you're playing on hero mode and you want to try to die less, I recommend picking up the blue tunic. That's what I did. And that's it. That's the color dungeon. You can access this dungeon anytime after you get the power bracelet and finish the second dungeon, which is Bottle Grotto. And that's it. Alright, if you guys liked this video, please let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, also please leave a comment. I'll do my best to help you out. If you like this guide and you're looking for more like them, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new videos go live. If you like this content a whole lot, please consider becoming a channel member by clicking the blue join button below. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at SJCage, and I also stream every Tuesday and Thursday night, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SweetJohnnyCage. And that about does it. Alright, I'm SweetJohnnyCage. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.